Fantastic. So, thank you all for coming to this evening. And could you introduce yourself slightly, just so I know who's who, what's what, and we have a general idea of everyone's players?
Okay. My guy is Charles Allen. He is a parapsychology investigator from Yorkshire. His mate called him to come over and see what was going on.
Fantastic, fantastic. Next.
After you, Evelyn.
I was trying to figure out whether I wanted to do a voice or not. I was like, I'll get into it maybe later. I totally based my character off of no one in any movie ever, but I've named her Evelyn Carnahan, which is the what do you call it? The librarian from oh Christ, what's it called? The Mummy series. So maiden name. So I was like, I'll just try and do something cool like that and try and be a non-fighting character. So yeah, she's a librarian with sort of like lost her parents and sort of like trying to work her way through life. Got many problems. Just see how it goes. I don't really know how I'm gonna play it. I'm just gonna
Okay.
I don't know, not punch people
Okay.
and use my knowledge.
Fantastic.
Okay.
And Obadiah.
That makes me Obadiah, and I'm from the south, and I'm a car engineer. I design cars, and unfortunately, I talk like this, and my name is Obadiah Gold, and I will be your driver and engineer this evening.
Right, you won't be our driver.
I mean, I will.
Apparently, you can't drive.
Now I learned to drive.
Oh, you learned to drive in the week.
Yup.
Fantastic.
1926, you buy a car, you've got a license.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Most assuredly it is.
So, Obadiah and Evelyn, you work at the Miskatonic University. Obadiah, obviously in engineering, looking at sort of,
I look at how to streamline them cars.
exactly current research and things like that. And Evelyn, you are part of the library, sort of, not necessarily admin, but helping out with the scholars with their research and sort of your knowledge of utilizing sort of, I suppose, liaising with different universities to get the texts and everything that they need, kind of helping like that. So the two of you have been summoned to speak with Professor Ernest Mctavish, and reasonably familiar with each other, sort of more by name than anything else. You've both been asked to come to his office, and he's scheduled a meeting in the Department of Archaeology at 11 a.m. on the 24th of September. Now, it's a cold, rainy day in Arkham, and the sky is forebodingly black. As you come across the quad, students are using papers and makeshift bags as kind of umbrellas to shield themselves. And when you get to Mctavish's office, it's got these big kind of oak doors with brass kind of handles sort of in front of you, and you roughly arrive about the same-ish time.
Sure. I brashly walk straight up to the door and then just like knock with my big meaty hand.
Okay.
I'm just gonna like casually wait behind him in a sort of polite manner.
Okay.
Wait.
The sound very much echoes down the hallway. It's quite a long corridor, and the sound reverberates off of the walls. And only a moment later, almost as if someone was kind of anxiously waiting behind the door, a man opens up, and you can see Mctavish. And you've seen him around the campus before, but not necessarily knowing exactly who he is. Now, for a professor, he's considerably less old-fashioned than you would imagine. He's kind of, I suppose, dressed in a shirt with a tie that's kind of on the bad side of garish. Welcome. Thank you for coming so quickly. And he kind of ushers you in. And as you go into his office, it's a lot more spacious and stuffy and modern than you would first imagine. There are these big plain white walls, and there on the side there's quite a few number of diplomas, and around scattered various trinkets that you would imagine he's picked up from archaeology expeditions. And there's also kind of like a big bookshelf with a considerable amount of like quite large tombs, and you can even notice that some of these have been written by himself. Please have a seat. We're just waiting for one more. And he kind of shows you to two nice big comfy Chesterfields, and he stands, and you can see he's, I suppose, a little bit anxious. He's pacing, and I suppose as you're kind of looking around the room, he's got this huge big oaken desk with a pile of papers on, and there's almost sort of geometrical precision to how he's placed everything, and one's held by a Mexican skull inlaid with turquoise.
I'm just like, I go and take a seat in one of the Chesterfields. I'm like, Ernest, I don't believe we have had the pleasure.
No, I don't think we have. I'm glad you could come on such short notice. I really, really appreciate it. And he kind of shakes your hand with two hands and a bit vigorous.
By all means, when I am called, I shall come.
Now, Charles, you have been requested to travel overseas and to come to the Miskatonic University for not necessarily expertise, because there's barely any expertise known about parapsychology. But what was written in a letter to you by Professor Mctavish was a concerning letter that one of your friends has gone missing, someone that you knew from the war, by Henry Rhodes. He was a good man and you got on with him, and they requested that you fly overseas, and I take it you sort of come to the university it's sort of at their aid, really. And a good kind of 5 minutes passes as Obadiah and Evelyn are waiting, and you hear another knock at the door, and Professor Mctavish glides over, opens it, and before you can see a man who is
He's fairly slender and spindly. He looks rather kind of dead on his feet from lots and lots of travelling. He has a rather unique moustache, and he looks quite sickly. You also see that he's got sort of pock marks on his face that could have been sort of shrapnel or something like that. He looks a bit sickly.
okay.
So he kind of just he walks into the room because Professor Mctavish, I presume.
Yes, thank you for coming, Mr. Allen. I appreciate it. This is almost a time of need, and I didn't know who else to reach out to for Henry.
I came as quick as I could. Henry was a dear friend. I kind of look around and inquire about the other people around me. So hello, who are your companions?
Please come. I will introduce you. And he guides you over, and sort of goes. And this is Miss Evelyn. She works here at our library. Evelyn, this is Mr. Charles Allen, who's come all the way from England.
Hello, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Miss Evelyn, delighted.
And
Whereabouts in England are you from, if I don't mind me asking?
Well, I'm from the north of England. I'm from a little industrial town called Dewsbury. It isn't very big and it isn't very famous, so there's not really much to tell you.
And you've heard, being at the university, you've had speakers over from different countries before, from England, and this isn't quite similar to what you're used to. It's not necessarily well spoken, but a thick Yorkshire accent. Yeah. And this is Mr. Obadiah Goad. He's one of our finest engineers at the university. Please.
Mr. Good, very pleasant to meet you.
A pleasure indeed. The pleasure is all mine. So, how close to London is this Yorkshire?
If you picked a point on a map which was diametrically opposite to where London is, go 5 miles further back, and we're about there.
I see. So you're basically French then?
The other way, but yes.
Wait, you're from Scotland?
We're not up there with those savages, no. Not quite.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here. Hopefully we can... I'm rather worried about my friend, so I wanted to get on with this as soon as I can and get out there and try and find what's going on.
Of course. You got any interest in cars?
Unfortunately, I don't drive. I think they're beastly contraptions.
Oh, I mean, I don't even know what to say to you anymore, Mr. Charles.
I'm just going to look at Mctavish and maybe sort of signal that we should probably be talking about other things.
And he kind of looks at you and goes, and he turns to a student, almost kind of looking more like a secretary, and is Camille, please, can we have some coffee and tea for our guests? And then he, as soon as the door closes, he addresses you all, and he's quite lively and hysteric, whether this is from anxiousness or just someone who's quite passionate about speaking. And he begins to sort of tell you about the reasons why you're here. The reason for my urgency of meeting you all is that we have had one of our professors not return from an expedition, and it is at the point where we are quite concerned. Mr. Henry Rhodes is a fine archaeologist and a friend, and he nods at Charles at the same point, who had an obsession with a place themed or known as Cade's Rest. He's a valued member of the department, but what's more concerning is that he went with his wife and some students, and he sent the students back after telling them to return, and he's agreed that he would return himself, but we've had no further communication. We've had to tell everyone at the university that he's on a convalescent leave, but really, he's just not returned to the Miskatonic Valley.
What of his wife?
Dear Abigail, she's with him, Charles, and we've heard nothing either. As you know, she scribes for him all of his letters, but she hasn't sent anything in months, and it's beyond concerning.
I see. What's the country out there like? Is it nice to drive around?
I suppose it's not the best place for a modern vehicle, but you know, more of an off-road type would be the best place to get there. As you drive, the roads get narrower, and I suppose just not roads.
I see. So this is to be some kind of expedition.
Well, you seem like the sort of people that might be useful in the sense that your engineering knowledge, the ability to research and understand places, as well as Mr. Allen's compassion for his friend. I thought that perhaps you might be able to go and find him.
By all means.
And bring them back.
By all means. Nothing would give me greater pleasure. Does he have in the room like a decanter with some alcohol in it?
There's a crystal sort of decanter with some whiskey in it and large glasses, but there's no ice in the tray.
Obadiah doesn't care about the ice. He gets up and immediately just pours himself a drink. like at least 2 fingers worth of the drink, like not even a civilized amount. It's just like
Okay. And he, Mctavish almost looks too concerned to care about the rudeness of helping yourself. I suppose he's also quite used to other scholars coming in and, just part of the culture.
You saying that Henry was sending back correspondences. What has he sent you? What was he looking for?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. And he moves over and he goes to pass you a letter. And you can see that it's in a female script and the paper is quite ruddy, and he hands it over to you.
Okay.
Letter from Henry Rhodes to Professor Mctavish of Miskatonic University. Care of Baxter's General Goods, Blackwater Creek, Dunwich County. June 22nd, 1928. My dear Mctavish, I am very sorry to inform you that I have been unavoidably delayed in my plans to return to the university. While, as we have discussed in the past, the dig site has proved fruitless, there is still some minor work to be carried out before I can extricate myself from the area. I do anticipate returning to Arkham by the end of August at the latest. Again, please accept my deepest apologies for the inconvenience that this extension may cause. In case you are considering sending any members of the field team back to the site, I would recommend against this in the strongest possible terms. As you have probably heard before, it saddens me to say that one of the local farmers has taken a strong dislike to our presence here, and he seems to have some rough associates. While the field team consists of Abigail and me, we probably represent sufficiently little intrusion to be objectionable, but I am sorry to say that an increase in numbers may prove provocative. Abigail sends her love, and we both look forward to returning to Arkham and joining you and Mary for a bridge evening as soon as we can. I am so very sorry. Your friend, Henry.
Okay. I'm going to ask Mctavish why he wants to send out people that aren't the police, basically. Is this not a police matter? Obviously, there was locals that were a bit annoyed by his presence. Do you not just think that something might have happened and ringing the police would be a better start?
Sure. And he goes on to tell you, well, you see, being on an expedition, they don't really take it seriously. For all they care, he could just be out there looking, and by the time they actually get around to it, it could be months and months. This isn't necessarily in their jurisdiction either. I doubt that there is much of that in Blackwater.
All right.
What can you tell us about Cade's Rest? What was he looking for?
Well, he believed it was Cade's Rest itself. I know little of the legend, however, there perhaps might be some texts within our libraries that would better explain that. All I know is that it was, all I know is that it was probably some sort of settlement.
I see. So, are you coming with us, Mr. Mctavish?
Unfortunately, I need to coordinate things from here. I still have so many responsibilities to run this department that I can't possibly. And that makes me feel ever so guilty, I tell you.
I wouldn't let it get to you. We'll find him. We'll find him and Abigail, and we'll bring them back safely.
You have my word. I'll do my very best to find my friend.
Thank you.
I'll try.
And my axe.
Yeah. Damn it! Now I want an axe.
Well, what other than his letter have you got any leads for us to follow as to get him? Do you know where he was staying out there?
All I know is that technically he's in Blackwater Creek.
I see.
Okay, and he made mention of students that come back. Do you think? Do you have their locations or addresses so that we could chat to them before we head out? Maybe find out from people who are with them.
Certainly. I suppose there are 3 students that returned, all of them to Arkham safely. 2 of the 3 of them, Agnes Somers and Clarence Welliver, are still at the Miskatonic University. However, Walter Reeg, he had to abandon his studies to unfortunately look after his sick mother. But he still lives in Arkham.
Okay. Can he give us the addresses, like via handout or something like that?
Yeah,
or...
sure. He kind of he gives you Walter Rehrig's address, and that's kind of within Arkham, and he informs you that the others live on campus. They're easy enough to find.
What were their names again, if you don't mind?
Sure, we've got Agnes Somas. Agnes Soames. Clarence Welliver. And Walt Rehrig.
And these students, did they all study under Mctavish? Not under Mctavish, I apologize. They don't study under you, under Mr. Rhodes.
Well, I suppose technically they all study under me, being in my department. But yes, they were part of the classes that Henry was teaching.
And what exactly was it that Henry was? What was his classes on?
Archaeology.
Of any kind in particular, or he just liked digging up them rocks?
Usually, he had a particular interest in settling, where one might best settle, and he was looking more kind of about historically how that would happen, as opposed to how we might do it now.
I see.
It seems we have something of a task in front of us, ladies and gentlemen. This Walter, he lives near to the university. Do you know, is this sickness with his mother a new thing? Is this an ongoing illness? Something that's been happening for a while?
I don't know the boy, but he dropped out quite suddenly.
After returning? Like suddenly after returning, or?
Yes.
Alright. That might be something to look into for us.
By all means, I can get us there. Nice quick drive into town. I don't mind. I don't mind none at all.
Is it within walking distance at all, or?
I have a car, damn it.
Likely not to be within walking distance, kind of the further side of Arkham City. As you're kind of discussing about the means and the importance of getting there, you can see Mctavish kind of scrawling away, and he hands over to you a letter of introduction. It starts at "Dear Walter."
My many thanks.
Yeah.
One of you should probably hold on to this. It'll only get scrumpled in my pocket.
I'll take it off of you, and I'll neatly fold it and put it in my bag. And then I suggest that we either head there, or maybe... Yeah, we can maybe go there. I'm just trying to decide what the best play is.
We either stick around the university and we maybe do some research into Cade's Rest, or we see some students who are still here, or we go see a Walter, I guess.
I guess we could split up, unless that's
Oh God, no!
horrible for the for the video.
Let's not split up. We've got a mission to achieve, all 3 of us.
My personal thoughts are the legend of Cade's Rest and Walter may be the first places I would go and look into.
Which one do you want to do first?
Maybe do Cade's Rest and then Walter, because we might have some background then to be able to question him a little bit better.
That makes sense.
So
Books
if
don't
we're going
avoid
in-
answers.
Yeah, if we're going in completely blind, we could miss a lot.
Indeed. Let's do that then.
To the library.
So Evelyn leads you down a few corridors. Now, as you go down the university, it's quite grand. There are busts of scholars, and everything is quite lavish. There's like marble floors as you go through atriums. It's a nice university. And she leads you straight into a massive library. And as you open the door, it's this big smell of mustiness. And considering it's kind of about 11:30 in the morning, there are countless students, heads down in books with those nice green lamps shining onto their books. Could you roll? I take it, Evelyn, with your knowledge, you'll be leading the library hunt.
Attempting to.
Yeah. Okay. Could you roll a library use check, please?
Yep. 2 seconds. The pop out is a bit screwed up.
Still getting used to it.
Alright, I click the button. Ooh,
Has it gone
okay.
back?
I tell you what, I'm going to just open it up on inside the browser.
Okay.
Because it seems to be a bit temperamental. Oh, it's a bit ugly there. Right, there you go. It's the green one, right?
Yes, please. And you got 82 out of 85. You succeed. So, it takes you little under 10 minutes to navigate your way through the channels of the library, finding out which you need. You know exactly where the archaeology section is. You know exactly where historical settlements in America are, and you manage to find a book that is a combination of both history and myths. And you find a book called Cade's Rest, and I will just click it.
Summary of the Confessions of Ezekiel Cade. Cade starts by discussing the threat to the Quakers presented by the Puritans in Boston in 1660, and his decision to lead his family and friends to find somewhere they could live in peace. They headed north, up the coast, and eventually followed the Miskatonic River inland, finally stopping when they reached some fertile land at the base of a range of hills. They set up a small settlement there, away from civilization, and lived peacefully for months before meeting the Siakuk, or Black Earth tribe. Initially, Cade's followers and the Siakuk coexisted amicably. The Siakuk were shunned by all the local tribes, and the Quakers were the first people they encountered who would trade with them. In exchange, when Cade's son, Daniel, was gored by a stag when hunting, the Siakuk took him to their sacred cave to be healed. Daniel wasn't the same when he returned, though, claiming that he had seen the devil. While his wound was healed, he sickened in other ways, growing mad and violent. When Cade asked the Siakuk what they had done to his son, they took him to the cave and showed him their elders. Cade's narrative becomes incoherent at this point, mentioning demons made of flesh and abominations in the earth. He fears that they have corrupted all they have touched, and not even those who are strong in their faith are safe. In the following section, Cade admits that, maddened, he fled the valley and vanished for several months. His faith and his desire to live by peace failed him, and he resolved to do what needed to be done to contain the corruption. In time, he returned to the settlement, bringing a boat up the river, bearing hired guns and barrels of gunpowder. To the horror of those who had once looked up to him, he led the destruction of the Siakuk and used the gunpowder to collapse the cave. He then ordered his mercenaries to turn on his own people, knowing them to be tainted, and burned all the bodies together. In time, Cade returned to Boston his narrative degenerates again as he starts believing that the taint of the settlement has come to Boston with him, in his flesh. He was forced to shun human company, gaining a reputation as a leper, and resolved to leave Boston and live out his days in seclusion. His narrative ends with a plea for forgiveness from God, from his family, and from those he murdered.
I mean, he sure sounds like a nice fella.
I'm not sure how much of that is true, to be honest.
What, him sounding like a nice fellow, or?
No. No, the more occulty stuff. That seems a bit more like...
Is the book just plain text, or are there any symbols, anything, illustrations drawn within it, or anything that way around?
Unfortunately, it's just text after text. There's a rough sketch of the
Settlement.
cave, yeah, but apart from that, unfortunately, it's just old text, handwritten.
Okay.
All right. Would there be any more books on Cade himself here? Things like maybe how he died, if he was still in Boston, was he finally passed? Or...
Do you want to roll another library check?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it can't be worse than 82.
Unfortunately, as much as you check the records, this appears to be the only text you can find.
I see.
Definitely feel like it would be worth, at some point anyway, checking up. If we can find out where he died and what he died of.
That would make sense, and I mean, it ain't far from Boston.
It would be...
Very sort of quick one about the text. It's his script, isn't it? It's Cade himself who was writing that book. Is there anything in how he would be writing it as the kind of madness set on and things that way around that might pique my interest as the parapsychology sort of mythos guy?
Sure. Do you want to roll a hard parapsychology?
Okay. I'll roll the dice and I'll see what numbers I need.
Nailed it.
It's Cthulhu. I win. The end.
Oh god, it's 5. I'm 5. Okay, so as you are going through it, Sorry, bear with me 2 seconds. I did not expect you to pass.
Neither did I.
I'm just trying to find the highlights in here. So, yeah, I suppose the more and more, definitely around kind of the part where he is begging for forgiveness, you can tell that it is the curvature of the letters is longer than the lines, and thinking about kind of it looks like there are more stains, that he's obviously holding the pen longer, so the ink is bleeding out into the paper more. It's definitely kind of a bit more erratic. In terms of, I suppose, yeah, so you can more kind of gather the emotions from it than anything else. You can't necessarily sense that there was something mythic about it, but certainly it piques your interest, and I suppose you know from a common kind of thing this sounds like delusional sort of disorder, but really, considering your level of experience, you don't necessarily know what symptoms that would apply to that. It's just kind of like, oh, this sounds a bit delusional.
Yep. I kind of relay that in the best way I can to my colleagues and suggest that maybe Walter might be the best person to speak to. In my own mind, I'm thinking, especially with the link with disease and things that have been in the text, that kind of piques my guys' occult interest as well from things that we were reading.
Sure.
And my knowledge of Henry before and the friendship we have and the common interests.
Sure.
By all means.
It certainly would make sense that if there was some sort of disease that Cade caught, then it could possibly be taken back by Walter.
Sure. I suppose, Charles, there's a part of you there also as well, because it piques your interest in such a way. There's a part of you that really wants to believe part of this is true.
That's kind of what I was thinking in my own mind, as Charles, and that's not Charles. That he's kind of, well, just as so you guys kind of have that little bit of background without going too far into it. My guys, have you seen Frighteners?
No.
Well, Jeffrey Combs' character in there is kind of a bit of a paranoid investigator who believes in the parapsychology and stuff like that. He's kind of a bit like that, but nicer. So he's kind of anything that way around. He wants to jump to the conclusion that it is something bigger than what it might be. So my guy's kind of desperate to get out and do that, but his Yorkshire demeanour's kind of mutes it a little bit.
Okay. I'm definitely thinking at this point it's just going to be more of just there's a disease somewhere that you can catch around there.
So a lot more logical sort of sense of thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will. I think I will maybe spend some time in the library trying to find so maybe looking in the medical diaries or something and see if there's any sort of note or of diseases that would, I don't know, maybe affect the mind or something that was noted around that area and maybe Boston around the time, but I presume it may come up.
Okay.
Not very fruitful.
Yeah, again, I think it's probably more of a hard use of library
just
roll.
Library, yeah. Come on.
37, yeah. So what you managed to find is that there is a sparse but very interesting set of interesting literature regarding the mind. The mind is getting more and more studied in terms of its diseases and ailments, and I suppose the first kind of talks about shell shock coming from the First World War are starting to emerge, but not necessarily to its full extent. And there are interesting texts that you could assume in everyday life, and I suppose there are 1926. There are talks about how certain diseases could impact on the mind, predominantly thinking about early research into syphilis and things like that. But beyond that, that's kind of what you find.
Alright, so nothing really obvious. I'll maybe just relay the fact that
it could be possible.
Probably not. Yeah, it could be possible,
but it's quite, there's a dearth of literature, and it's quite rare.
Cool.
I mean, quite frankly, he could have caught anything from those locals.
And Charles, I suppose as you're hearing this, you know, Henry is a devoted husband to Abigail. It would be very out of character for him to be sleeping around, whilst you were fighting in the war together. He never strayed once when he was overseas.
I kind of, I relay that back as in, no, the Henry I knew would never do that. I've just basically said what Greg says to you, because otherwise it's me just saying the same thing, isn't it? I am very eager to go see Walter. But I would also like to know if there's anything else about the Black Earth tribe.
Oh yeah, that's a really good idea. Yeah, I'll try and find that in the library then for you, I guess.
Sure. So if it's an assisted roll, you would use the best use of library skills. You only get one roll.
That would be Evelyn quite easily.
Yeah.
I'm liking those 82s.
So there's not necessarily much about the Black Earth tribe. There is documents about the Sicario, I can't quite say it, the name for the tribe.
Can you type it when you've got free time?
Yeah, sure. It is in the Cade's Rest, I believe.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I'll just look in there then. Don't worry about it.
And I suppose just finding out. Yeah, I'll type it for you if not.
It's in there.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So it talks about them as a people, their way of life, and it talks about how I suppose how the tribes grew, but also how there was quite a devastating loss to them, and predominantly most of them were wiped out, but for unknown reasons.
Predominantly, so there's still some left
according
around.
to the book, they got blown up by Cade.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So we
But
know
the-
there was a...
It does suggest that there's some left, right?
It's hard to tell because they were kind of, little was known about them, so it assumes that all of them have been wiped out.
Okay. Oh,
At this point, then, are we all going together to go see Walter, or is Evelyn staying to do some more research, and myself and Obadiah can go see Walter? How do we want to do this?
I think I'll come as well. It'd be nice to see the disease, so that I could maybe come back and look up more specifically the disease that may have come back.
But we do have to come back to campus anyway because we need to speak to the other two. I just my kind of gut instinct says that Walter's going to have more to say about this.
I'm happy to go see Walter.
I mean, you gotta try us there.
I mean, that's why I'm happy to go.
Nice and
I
safe.
get to drive my car.
Is that the plan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
As you lead out of the university, Obadiah leads you over to a car, which is
Today he is driving a Chrysler Model F58.
You can already see that sort of slight raindrops have started to gather on the windscreen. It is, cold and the wind is starting to pick up as a rainfall is pretty much due.
What a miserable day.
Indeed.
Now, Obadiah and Evelyn, you're reasonably familiar with the locations. Charles, you have no idea in the sense of kind of what is around Arkham. And you know that you're going to sort of head off for a particular neighborhood where Grig is kind of located, and it's definitely kind of getting into the worst parts of town. Considering you're driving such a nice car, there's a moment of, oh, do I really want to park this there? Do I really want to take my baby?
I'm just sitting in the car. I'm like, I think I might I might just stay in my car. You guys can handle one student, right?
Absolutely. I'm already getting out of the car at this point and heading towards the door.
Okay.
Yeah, I also don't really want to stay in the car. I'm just like, whatever you want, and then close the door.
Okay.
I pull up the car, obviously, to let them out. And
Sure. So as you've kind of come in, town gets a lot more derelict. It is getting to the point where this is definitely where more of the where foreigners have settled. So it's getting more derelict. There's a lot of Irish around. There are people on the street corners, and the buildings aren't necessarily kind of strongly built. They're more wooden than anything else. And as you pull up to Grig's house, it is a very tall and narrow wooden structure on its own kind of patch of ground. And the first thing you notice is things are becoming a little bit overgrown in comparison to its neighbours, and it's clearly a bit uncared for.
I'm sitting in my
That's
car.
fine. It was more for the when you mentioned the car type. I was like, I have no idea what that car looks like.
That's exactly what I was getting a picture of
Yeah.
and putting into my journal.
Yeah, I'm just gonna turn to Charles and be like, "Well, I'm just gonna knock on the door," and then I produce the folded letter from my bag. She'd be like, "I'll just introduce us with this, I guess." Is that all right with you, Charles?
Madam, that's absolutely fine by me. You know the lie of the land and the people better than I do, so I'll follow your lead.
Yes, I guess maybe your accent might be a bit intimidating for them.
Well,
And then
quite possibly.
and then I'll just walk up to the door. And is there a knocker or?
There is, but it looks like it's kind of very rusted and kind of I'm trying to think what the word is, but you know when copper goes that very funny color.
Third degree and everything. Yeah, the greeny oxidized stuff. Yeah.
Oxidized. That's the word. Yes.
It's alright. I've read about it in the library. I'm gonna gingerly tuck it and just sort of like lightly tap on the door then.
Okay.
Not very loudly, just politely.
And you're gonna say something, Charles?
And I was just going to say, I'm kind of looking at the doorway itself and around it just to see if there's anything unusual or if it's just a regular doorway.
It looks pretty standard, to be honest, for this area of town. It just quite poorly neglected.
It's just a neglected house.
Should have been painted a few years ago. Needs a lick of paint, and it's with the weather that Arkham has, it's just taken a bit of a battering. Yeah. Not to the degree where this is like slum town, but it's certainly the poor area of town. Studentsville. So within a moment, there's you can sort of hear some very light footsteps approach the door, and a man kind of half opens the door, and he's yes, and he looks painfully thin. At the moment, all you can see is his face, but there's some really deep sort of rings around his eyes in his sallow skin, and he just looks so thin.
Okay. Is this still the morning, or are we in the afternoon now?
By the time you've gotten to the side of Arkham, I'd probably say it's getting on to about 1 o'clock.
Okay, that's fine. I was just going to change whether I say good morning or good afternoon. I was going to be like, good afternoon. We're hoping to speak to a Walter Gehrig. Sorry, what did you retype in the
Gehrig.
Gehrig, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, Walter Gehrig.
Yes, that's me.
Ernest Mctavish sent us, and then I'm gonna unfold the letter and hand it over to him. I presume through the small gap that he's opened.
Yeah, you can see kind of almost as you mentioned, Mctavish is he kind of calms a little bit in the sense of these strangers at my door. What do they want? Not necessarily hostile, but kind of his features soften as you mentioned that, and he opens the door slightly and he takes the letter off you, and you can see he very quickly reads it. He is dressed in clothes that are too big for him. They're slightly tatty, but there's also a kind of he's still quite a young man, in his early 20s. He's got a ponytail, and he's clearly kind of like that student-y type. And finishing the letter, he sort of says to you, yes, come in. And he welcomes you in. It goes straight into the living room, because this is such a small house. And the room is untidy. There are papers and books everywhere. There is a considerable amount of documents and books knocking about.
Okay, just student-style books, or?
Do a spot check if you want. Spot hidden.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can quite easily see that they are books related to dreams, psychiatry, mythology, but a distinct lack of history or archaeology.
Okay, I'm gonna lean into Charles and just point the books out, because his parapsychology is probably going to be a bit more useful in that case than
Okay.
my library knowledge.
How exactly are you doing this?
I'm just gonna sort of like lean backwards and so like point. I presume what's his face? Walt is just showing like he's just walking in front of us, right? He's not looking at us.
That's when you intended to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll allow
Sort of
that.
like a little point out rather than while sitting in the room.
So yeah, I kind of spot the books after it being pointed out to me, and I'm kind of trying to look as subtly as I can to see the titles of the books and see the types of things that he's looking into. Because obviously, it may be the occult and mythosy type stuff, but it's what he's looking at as well.
I mean, it's stuff that it's part of it's hard to tell because the books that are open, you're so far away that it's difficult to read the text. The books that are kind of on the side, they are more books around medicine, diagnostic criteria, early stage of psychiatry. There is a book it's called The Madness Within Me, and in terms of mythology, it's more kind of not mythos, but legends,
But this is all common stuff that you'd find, rather than being, oh wow, that's a very rare book that you have there. It's kind of surface level rather than really deep.
Yeah, so it's stuff that you would probably have found at the library from the university. However, even still, you're quite excited by the look of it.
Yeah. Well,
because being in a different country, this isn't. You've not seen these as the #1 chart book sort of thing.
Okay, so I guess we're going to start off because it'd be very rude to just pick up his books and start going through them.
We should probably introduce ourselves, I guess, in case the letter doesn't. I'm gonna say I'm not sure if the letter introduced us, but my name is Evelyn, and this is Charles, and I'm sure the letter states that we're going to be looking for your professor that you went away with to looking for Cade's Rest, I believe it was.
So,
he hasn't come back yet, so.
Yeah, and as you say this, he sort of plants himself down in a seat with the hardback, but he's sitting on other papers. It's that much of a mess, and he kind of gestures for you to sit down, but it's kind of like, where do I sit down? Because it's just that much of a mess. There's food in places, and there's kind of half-eaten, not cleaned up stuff, and there's just a huge amount of study material on the floor. And he kind of acknowledges you. Yes, and how can I help? But he doesn't necessarily seem wholly interested.
Okay. I'm gonna ask him if it's okay if I write notes whilst we have a conversation.
Yes, please.
Cool. I'm just gonna pull out my notepad and pen, and I'll just take notes as we go along. I'll let you go, Charles.
Yeah, I kind of look down at the books in front of me and pick out a suitable sort of title of one of our, pick it up and say, oh, this is so-and-so. Interesting read. I found that the author was a little tired in places, but had some good ideas. What I'm trying to do is lead him in to see if his excitement is like mine and it's that frenetic interest.
Okay, sure. Can you do a psychology roll for me, please?
Okay.
You managed to convince him and that you're both interested in quite similar things. For a moment, his distraction and nervousness sort of fades, and he's like, yes, very well written. I like a lot. Although concepts are quite new, I think it is exciting research, isn't it? But the moment he stops talking, his leg starts going again. He's clearly quite distracted and clearly quite nervous. But you did manage to calm him slightly.
Okay. So tell me, how did you find Henry? Has he recovered from his limp?
Yes, he walks very well. He has not used the cane in many years.
It's many years since I've seen him last. I think it was 1918 when I last saw him. So it's good to know that he's recovered well. How were his classes? What were you studying?
He had keen interest to publish, and I like that. In terms of my academic profile, I need to publish lots, but that's not the case these days. He had such interest and focus on the settlements, and he goes on to talk about how some really quite boring stuff about how the boundaries of settlements are made, about how the right location is chosen, and how the laws and infrastructure on sort of small communities to state law to countrywide interact. And he's excited by it and he's passionate by it, which I suppose makes it more curious as to why there isn't anything here.
Yeah. In that conversation, and I might have to roll for this if what I'm trying to do is kind of develop that little bit of a rapport with him, so he may trust me a little bit more and open up a little bit more about things. So I'm making the correct responses for certain things and making it seem interesting, and where I have any information myself, I'm feeding that back in there to try and open him up a little bit more.
Sure.
So I don't know if you want me to roll for that or
I think based on the type of what you're trying to do, I think I probably more want of a charm roll.
Okay. Charm or persuade? Persuade is my better stat.
I would feel it feels more charmy to me.
Okay.
But how different is it?
Well, it's persuade I have a 60 and charm I have a 15.
Yeah, but 15. Where's your persuade gone? 60. Yeah, I'll let you persuade him because it's not exactly a difficult task for you to do.
Did I persuade him good? I can't see the last one.
Sure.
Yeah, you pass.
Yep, cool.
So the more you talk with him, the more he gets into the conversation, the more he calms, and there feels to be some sort of bond. You've almost persuaded him that you are interested in the same things, and you are a cool, hip guy that knows about the latest weird research in terms of the same things that he enjoys. There's something about the air of being from England that he's not heard all of these ideas, and some of them are crazy.
Yeah. So I'm going to try and bring the conversation back onto Henry Rhodes and bring that into how things were at the beginning, and then try and steer it onto what happened at the end and why was he sent back.
Sure. Okay. So he goes on to talk to you. You'll see the local farmers. They not like us. They try to run us out. Young, angry men. They wave their guns around. They say that we poke around. They're not like anyone looking. He kind of explains to you that he thinks they were brothers on a farm together, and they just did not like intruders.
Okay. Did he poke around any places in particular that they didn't like? Maybe a cave or something like that?
No, cave near the end. We needed places to stay. It's not much in Blackwater Creek, and they are good peoples, the Jarvies. We stay with them of bad weather. He goes on to tell them about how friendly they were. He goes on to talk about how Mrs. Jarvie makes probably the best apple pie you've ever had in your life, which is really interesting for someone so skinny. And he sort of talks about how other farmers were not like these people.
Okay. And would it be possible to get the address of the Jarvies, was it? So that we could talk to them when we eventually end up going out there?
So it kind of explains to you that there are really no addresses there, but you will be able to find the farm relatively easy. Yeah, just
Okay.
in the sense
Is there
that
any defining features of the farm, or so we know it's that farm where they live, so we don't end up going to the other farmers who
sure,
don't like people?
sure, and he directs you, stating that it is they are next to each other, but it's the furthest east.
I'm going to try and press a little bit more about the brothers who were waving the guns around and everything else that way, and just to try and get more of an understanding of why they were doing it. Well, as in, did they get to a certain place, or were they looking at a certain thing that has set them off more, or were it just from the word go and it just got worse and worse and worse?
So he goes on to explain to you that they weren't welcome when they got there, to be quite honest. In terms of Blackwater Creek, not a great deal of people welcomed them, and as time got on, it got worse. They didn't necessarily go to Carmody Farm. They didn't necessarily go and find those places, but it's not like they trespassed. However, they were just unwelcome. People didn't want outsiders there. And I suppose as he comes to the end of telling you this, he asks you, he's like, please excuse me, I need to take my mother some food. And he goes out into the kitchen, and you can hear him rustling around for a good few minutes, to be honest. It's a considerable amount of time.
Okay. Now's probably a good time to look around, maybe note some of the books that you found, Charles.
Yeah.
And we can maybe look for them in the library when we get back.
I'm going to have a look for the book titles, and I'm going to do a quick sort of, well, if I have time for this, quick look to see if there's anything. What's the word that I'm looking for? When
Sticks out.
Anything sticks out, anything sort of beyond the pale or beyond the veil, as it were, that I would know about.
Okay.
So if it could be symbols and stuff, because I'm obsessed with the symbols type of a thing. It could be just a feeling in the air. It could be anything. I'm kind of would link to the occult and link to sort of the areas of interest that my guy has.
Sure. Could you roll just a library use whilst you're trying to flick through and you're kind of skim reading but trying to pick things out that you really
Yep,
want?
certainly.
Okay, so you find nothing of the occult. You find it deems to more medicine, and it deems to more kind of accounts. So there are case studies of people that have been in asylums, which is particularly difficult to read. There are things that are very familiar and hit home.
Yeah.
But nothing really out of the ordinary, to be quite frank with you. Just on that subject matter.
I kind of turned around to Evelyn and said, I don't know about you, but I think I would like to meet his mother.
Yeah, I don't really want to press it whilst he's giving her food or whatever, but yeah, I'll maybe talk to him when he gets back about how it first happened and whether he felt anything when he first came back. I think that's probably a good way to broach the subject, but I definitely think you should do it because you seem to have built a rapport with him.
So he comes out and he's holding a tray of some stew, a glass of water, and there is a small tea cake on the side, and he starts to make his way up the stairs.
So, Walter, Professor Mctavish mentioned that your mother's ill. How is she?
She's very sick, very, very sick. And as he's talking, you can see him start to slide not slide, but you can see him still kind of trying to go up the stairs.
Okay. Without being rude, can I ask what is the matter with your mother?
So she very sick. She cannot leave the bed. She is very, very poorly. Doctors say this is the terminal.
I'm very, very sorry. I went through. I'll kind of embellishing a little bit on this, if you like, to get my own way. But it's I went through a similar situation with my wife. Would you mind if I came and said hello?
No, she's too tired. And again, he sort of takes another slow step up the stairs.
Let's let him go up the stairs, and we can always quiz him when he gets back, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I really want to get in that room.
I know, so do I.
Yeah. Go, sorry. Go, Greg. Yeah, no, give me a second to think as well. Bye.
Okay. So you can hear some movement upstairs, and you can hear his footsteps circling round. You can hear him talking to someone. Could the one of you that has the highest intelligence, could you make an intelligence roll, please?
I think that should be you. I'm on 75. What are you on?
60.
Oh wait, no, it's education. My bad. Oh yeah, I'm on 75. Okay. I'll just make a roll then. Nailed it.
Okay. There are no female possessions in this living room.
Okay. So maybe I'll say that to Charles because it's a bit weird, but it could. We need to find out whether his mum has lived here long, or whether she's just moved in because, like, whose house is this basically? If she's just moved in with him, it kind of makes sense that because she was ill, it makes sense that there would be no female sort of possessions around the house.
Okay.
But,
I'm going to turn around to Evelyn and say, Evelyn, have you any problem with appearing to be rude?
Depends on what for, I guess.
Well, my plan is to march straight upstairs and go into that room and say hello to his mother regardless, because I think we need to see it.
I think so too. Is there something we could fake? Or some requirement to see him extremely, like, we need to, like, fabricate something so that we could just see him immediately, like some massive issue.
Did he offer us any drinks at the beginning?
He didn't.
No, he didn't.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go upstairs and try and find the bathroom.
Okay, you do that. I
now,
will
that's
maybe
what I'm going to tell him. That's what I'm going to tell him.
Yeah. You do that, I'll have a look around the bottom of the house and see if in the other rooms if there's anything weird.
So I go. Sorry, Greg, go on.
So as you go up the stairs, they're predominantly creaky. They don't necessarily feel the safest of stairs. And as you get to the top and turn around the banister on the back of yourself, you can see Gerig coming out with a tray in his hand. And you notice that the tray is full of food. There is a rice dinner, a full glass of water, and a tea cake. And as he's sort of going up to you, he's a little dazed. So, oh.
Hello, Walter. You look really, really dazed. Have you forgot the conversation we had? You were about to show me around the house.
No.
No, yes, that's what we said. You were going up to see your mother, and you was going to show me around the house.
Make a persuade roll. Okay, so you succeed on hard. So he looks confused, bemused, and doesn't really know. Yes. Come, I show you kitchen.
No, you said upstairs. That's where we're. What's in that room behind you?
My mother, she sleep.
No, you said that she was just about to. I feel that we have some type of bond here, and you know that I kind of into similar things as yourself. I think I might be able to help your mother if you let me meet her.
You can see that kind of his eyes looking around, looking left and right and up and down, kind of avoiding contact with you. And he is clearly in a position of feeling quite. He doesn't want to. But
Walter,
apparently
let me help you, Walter. Yeah.
So, he moves to the side ever so slightly, just enough that your stature would be able to get past on the landing, and you can see the door is ever so slightly ajar.
I proceed. I go to the door. At this moment in time, I'm desperate to bash straight through it, but I'm trying to hold myself back a little bit.
Okay.
So I kind of knock on the door and proceed to go in. Yeah, that's what I do.
Okay. So there's no answer, and Garrick says, "Mother," and there's no answer.
I kind of say, I better go check, and I open the door.
Okay. So as you open the door, you can see a rather small, quaint but shoddily sort of room. There is a bed with a standing tray of the food that Garrick has just brought up. There are a small radio in the corner, some ruffled bed sheets, and no one in the bed.
Okay. I kind of look around the room to see if she's moved out of the bed, not like yeah.
Yeah.
Move his van drives off outside and the window's open.
There is nothing to suggest that anything is here.
Okay. I kind of step into the room fully to have a look around.
Okay. Can you roll a spot hidden?
I certainly can, and this will be my poorest roll of the evening. Oh, maybe.
Oh,
You can't see anything.
Oh, no. It's rubbish, that is. I tried to spot hidden again.
You could push the roll.
I'm not going to push the roll.
You
don't
can
worry.
push the roll, but you have to explain how you would do it.
Okay. Well, again, my guy's kind of a bit of a freak for all the occult and everything else that way around, so I kind of make a couple of symbol gestures.
Okay.
With my fingers.
Okay.
Because this is something that I've studied and I've used before.
Sure. So what's your gut telling you think's there?
My gut's telling me that there is. I'm not sure. I'm looking. My key trigger is symbols, so I'm looking to see if there's something hidden there that may link to symbols of ... Sure. If you know what I mean.
So do another spot hidden, but we'll be using the middle value.
Okay.
Oh. Okay. So you still cannot see anything that is there.
Okay. I kind of look around the room to see if there's any women's clothing or anything that way around, and then I'll leave. I'll come back to Walter.
Okay. You hear Walter start to make his way down the stairs, and you cannot hear or see anything that would indicate that a female is present.
Okay.
Because I can hear water coming down the stairs. I'm going to, because you said it was quite creaky. I'm gonna make my way back into the living room,
Yeah.
where I was standing before.
You've quite clearly got enough time to move from your little bit of digging, because you can hear him coming. And he makes his way down the stairs and sort of goes into the living room, back into the kitchen.
Cool. I'm just gonna ask if she was okay as he walks past.
I'm gonna, as subtly as I can, just kind of shake my head and just, nothing. Make it a gesture that makes it clear that there was nothing there.
Okay.
And then I kind of make eyes across at Evelyn as of what do you want to do next.
After
I mean, I
not too
kind of
long,
want to go see it for myself.
after not too long, Gary kind of comes out the kitchen. He's like, "Please, if no more question, I need to study."
Okay. Walter, why did you leave the university? I'm just gonna kind of ask him straight about where is your mother? She wasn't in the room.
And he kind of looks quite blankly at you and doesn't necessarily reply.
I'm gonna be like, wait, she wasn't in the room? Are you sure?
So as much as you're confused about her not being there, he's as confused from the opposite point of view.
What do you mean the opposite point of view? That
So he can't understand that she's there. She is there.
oh, okay. I'm not sure what to do really. I guess my character would be quite confused as to why this guy says that his mother's up there, but maybe seeing it more as like a mental or a psychological problem. I guess I'm gonna ask him actually if any notable events happened to him personally, not the group, when he was out looking for Kate's vest.
And the guy says, no problems.
Nothing at all. And when did you decide to, or when did your mother fall ill?
Shortly after I come back, few weeks, she gets poorly.
And she lived with you, lived here with you for how long? Or
Months. She look after my house while I away.
okay. Does she? What clothes does she like to wear? Normally, what does she do?
He kind of shrugs. Usual.
I've kind of positioned myself so Walter. I'm not behind him, but he can't really see what I'm doing. I'm kind of shaking my head so Evelyn can see, nothing.
Okay. I'm just gonna say that I need to go to the toilet if that's all right, and then head upstairs like Charles did.
Okay.
I'm going to try and keep him engaged in small talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he kind of signals. He sort of says, out of politeness, you can go to the toilet. And it's like, please, I have reading.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll be very fast. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So we had to drive here, and it makes me nervous.
Sure. And I suppose for the sake of brevity, you see exactly what Charles saw.
Okay, there's absolutely nothing else in there. Okay. And I just see that there's no one in there, no presence of it. There's no wardrobe with clothes in it.
Yes, there's a wardrobe in there.
Is it male clothes or? Yes, it's all male clothes. And the bed hasn't really been changed recently.
It's ruffled, but not really.
Ruffled in what way? Like someone sat on it, or?
Yeah, I suppose there's a sitting mark at the end, and I suppose it looks like it's been pulled down so that someone could eat. Sort of folded over. But the food that he's brought up sits there on the table.
And the
stew
cushions
starts.
don't have any dent in them or anything like that.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Okay. Then I'm actually gonna go to the toilet and then come back downstairs
Okay.
and maybe ask Charles and say, "Is there anything else you want to know, or shall we leave this poor boy to his studies?"
Yeah, there's only one more question that I'd like to ask Charles, and that's about himself, because he's looking really dishevelled and everything, isn't he? That's sort of the description that we had.
Mm-hmm.
So the questioning and the line of questions that I'd use were just, are you looking after yourself, and see if there's anything that I noticed within him, other than the kind of dazed and confused stuff.
He kind of tells you about since dropping out of university that he's lost his scholarship, that he spends a lot of time looking after his mother, and not a lot of goes into him. That takes up most of his day.
I'm going to ask where he's from as well, because he's obviously got an accent.
He explains to you that he got a scholarship and he's come over from Poland.
Right. Okay. I think of that without pulling a gun out and putting it to his head. There's not much else I can do, and I don't really want to do that.
Yeah. So he kind of moves towards the doorway and kind of opens it and sort of, thank you for visit.
I'm gonna ask him if I could get the letter of recommendation or introduction, whatever it was, back from him, just to make sure that I keep it for records.
Sure. And he goes, takes it off the table and gives it back to you with no hassle.
Cool. Thank you very much. I hope your mother gets better soon, and I hope you good luck in your studies.
Thank you. So, as you leave the house, realistically the weather hasn't changed, but possibly a good hour has happened, and you see that Obadiah is patiently waiting in the car.
What you don't see up until the point where you are approaching the car is that he's actually got his sawn-off shotgun over his lap, like just in case anybody approached the car untowardly. And he looks at you both and is like, "What took you so long, people? I mean, I've been sitting here for quite some time."
Literally nothing. You didn't happen to see any frail old ladies around the house, did you? When you were away?
I mean, they're not really my kind of cup of tea.
I'm just gonna stand by the door and say, "Do you think you would mind waiting just another couple of minutes? I want to have a look around the back of the house, if that's all right."
I mean, I haven't gone anywhere for the past hour, and I'm not going anywhere until you get back in this car.
I say, thanks very much. And then I want to have a look around the grounds of the house. Maybe not from within the grounds, because I don't really want to piss off Walt too much. But I want to see. I don't know what I'm really looking for. It's more just
To have a look.
is there an obvious grave of his mum or something
Being the gentleman that I am, I offer to look after the car for Obadiah while he stretches his legs and has a look around.
I mean, that would be very kind of you, sir. Very, very kind of you indeed.
Would you like me to keep your weapon?
No, I shall keep that where I keep it on my person at all times. I just linked the car just in case anybody wants to see. So I get out the car and he wears a jacket that's probably slightly not fashionable. It's a bit too long for fashionable attire, and he just puts the sawn-off shotgun in it in a manner that hopefully is pretty subtle.
Okay.
He gets out, stretches, and then just starts walking across the street.
Okay.
Cool. And then whilst we do that, I'll maybe tell him roughly what we saw. The fact that he's got weird books everywhere, and the fact that we managed to get into the room with his mother, and it didn't look like there was any female living in the house. There was no mother in the thing, and the guy's obviously got some sort of disease of the mind. And he didn't want to talk about it.
I'm glad he wasn't one of my students. My students are sound of mind.
So yeah, I'm just I explained to him that I wanted to see if there's any anything odd in the grounds, mainly looking for, I don't know, signs of his mum ever having lived there
Sure.
before we go check it.
Sure. So there's yeah. So like I said before, the grounds are pretty untidy. It's on its own kind of patch. It's not necessarily attached like in between two houses. So you can walk all the way around sort of the fence on the outside. But to be honest, it's just there's a small crappy shed. There are kind of like a mower that's in the middle of like too high grass for it. There's nothing really there.
Okay. So I'll just say to Obadiah, like, would you mind driving us back to the university? I don't think we'll get very much else here.
Of course I don't mind. But it's been nice to stretch my legs. I guess we'll go for a quick walk afterwards.
Yeah, we'll be walking around the university. I see him trying to find the other two students.
Indeed.
Okay. So you make your way back to the car, and I take it you drive back to the uni?
Yes.
Yeah.
I take the shotgun out of my pocket while I drive, and I put it in the small cabinet box that's down in front of the back seats.
Sure. And upon kind of returning to the university, you park the car, get out. What do you do? Where do you head and stuff like that?
Maybe just chat to everyone and see what you guys think. I mean,
I think there's two things we really need to do, which are talk to the other two students, but also maybe go to admissions or wherever you would go to find information about Walter and his background.
yeah,
See if
I
there's
really want to
anything
know.
there that we could have missed, because I think, especially with Evelyn, we're both in complete agreement that he's at best he's struggling with his a mental illness, but at worst, I've got a lot worse going on in my mind about what I think it is, just because of the paranoia. I don't have any proof. I'm leaping to that conclusion. But I want to find out. He's intrigued me, and I want to find out more about him as well.
Yeah, I really want to know or try to find out about his mother in general. Like, does she exist? Does she, like, just proof basically of in some way of anything about him, and then maybe refer him to a psychologist so that we can get him help, because that dude is obviously not happy. But yeah, we could do that after you go quiz the what do you call it? Yeah, just go quiz the other two.
Yeah.
I can't even remember their names right now.
Agnes Soames,
Yeah.
Clarence Welliver.
Those
So-
people. So I guess we didn't get information about where they were, so I guess we just have to just go to the universities, maybe even just admissions or like the help desk or something, and then track them down from there.
Okay. So who's talking to kind of the reception help desk?
I mean, I'll go talk to her. I don't mind.
Okay. So good morning, sir.
Good morning there. Do I know her name?
Jenny. You've seen Jenny around quite a lot.
Good morning there, Jenny. How you doing?
I'm well, Obadiah. And you?
I am most assuredly fine. I am looking for two students, if you could possibly be assisting me and my colleagues here.
And they are?
I am looking for one Agnes Soam and a Clarence Welliver.
You can see in her eyes that she recognizes who you're talking about. Can you roll me a luck?
I can roll you a luck. I don't know if it's gonna go well.
I'd also like to add something that we haven't discussed before.
I get an extreme, sir.
Oh.
What an extreme.
Fantastic. So just whilst I hold you for out of game for a second, you can spend your actual luck points and deduce the number of your luck to increase or technically decrease your roll so that you can pass, yeah? But your luck will forever go down.
Mm.
Yeah. So just so you know, if you ever get very close to passing a roll and you'd like to spend some of your luck, yeah.
You can just like tip a couple of points into it, and then it reduces it. Cool.
Exactly. But luck is very valuable. It does regenerate over time, but not specifically so. So, yeah. So she goes to you. Ah, yes. I have actually seen them heading to the campus bar. 5-10 minutes ago, actually.
Oh, what fantastic luck, Jenny. Thank you.
And she bids you a good day.
Cool. Just before we leave, I want to ask about like, does she have information about maybe next of kin and things of students, and if not, where best to find that?
Sure. And Evelyn, surely you of all people know about confidentiality. I couldn't possibly access those records for you.
Even if someone's life is at stake, or
Well, if that were the matter, you can leave a message with me, and I'll handle it.
I'm going to try and persuade her that this is a matter of the utmost importance. Holding the letter from the Dean Mctavish
Okay.
up in front without actually letting reading it, just waving it around a little bit.
Fantastic.
And trying to use my English accent to the benefits.
Okay. So I would like you to make a fast talk roll. What are you telling her?
Well, so I just this is a matter of the utmost importance. We need to find this for our investigation because we need to find these students and all the information we can to find Henry Rhodes and his wife.
Okay.
So.
And she looks at you a little bit puzzled, and she goes, "He's on leave, sir."
Oh God, yeah, that's what they've been told, isn't it?
bollocks.
I'd say, madam, I've been brought over from England to find this gentleman and speak to him. I need your assistance.
Go for a fast talk.
This is going to fail miserably. I've got 5%.
Just believe. Oh, you didn't believe very hard.
I talked really slow.
I'm sorry, sir, but he is on leave, and should you have any concerns about the students, the police, or myself, if you wish to ask me to pass on those details to the next of kin or whatever it may be, I will do so. But I cannot let you have those records.
All right, to the bar.
That's how. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else I can do.
Yeah.
Is there anything I can get for you from the bar, Jenny?
She smirks at you. I'm working, Obadiah.
I mean, so am I, but hell, live a little.
Not all of us are at the same stature and can get away with it.
I mean, prohibition hit hard, I guess.
So as you make your way down, the bar is on the campus, and the more you get to it, the busier it gets. I suppose I'm just thinking, if I've stitched myself up, when did Prohibition happen?
It was throughout 20s up until the early 30s.
It also may not have been in a thing here, or it may have been like a bar, like it may not have been like a, what's it called? The
will have had tried.
Yeah,
I'm sure the students probably
have
set up a
been-
speakeasy.
Yeah, it could have been like a coffee room or anything that way around as well.
Yeah, sure.
And with Prohibition, wasn't it just illegal to sell alcohol, not illegal to have alcohol?
Yeah,
So
I think that's a good point. So as you make your way down, it gets more and more lively. You can hear the tunes of the bar sort of take over, and it looks particularly busy. Everyone seems to be starting to have quite a good time.
All right. Any ideas on how we're gonna find these students, or?
Oh, do you recognise either of the students, and do you know who they are? Would you be able to spot them in a crowd? Because I definitely can't.
I wouldn't know them, but can I see if I can spot any of my students? Because I'm sure the students would overlap and be able to talk to each other and know who each other were more than I would.
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily hard. There are over in the corner by a table, particularly heavy with smoke. You can see a group of your relatively nerdy engineering students.
Sure. I walk straight over and I'm like, "Oh, Franklin, I need your assistance, please, Franklin."
And he's like, "Mr. Code," and he's very ecstatic that you're here. This is cool for him. Anything.
I'm looking for some of your fellow students, not my students, so you'll understand. I was wondering if you could point me in the direction of an Agnes. Agnes, what was it? Soames?
And you can see that he knows the name. It's clearly been documented that a group was going on an expedition, and that's quite exciting for the university. And he points over to a pool table where a woman is playing pool with a man.
Is Agnes an attractive woman or not?
Reasonably so. She's quite small. She looks reasonably intense. She's in her early 20s and she's got quite short hair and thick glasses. And the man she's playing pool with is quite slim, very dreamy, young, quite muscular with straw-coloured hair.
Okay.
And when he's not playing pool, he kind of looks quite dear. He's got that kind of Zoolander look as he looks over at a couple of the younger students
Sure.
who are eyeing him back.
Sure. I stand where I was still talking to Franklin. And I'm like, "Oh, Franklin, I can see why you keep tabs on her. You never. Why don't you go? Why don't you join me, Franklin? Come talk to Agnes."
And he stumbles through his words. I'm fine here, and he sort of
sure?
sips his drink.
I mean, never ventured, never gained, Franklin. Be a man.
Still never ventured, sir.
Next time, Franklin, I'll teach you the engineering of a woman's heart. I promise that.
And he kind of looks at you, both cheesily
What is this
but
thing
admired.
they call?
Yeah.
It reminds me of the big man in Chewing the Fat, where he's trying to get a student's lead.
I've never watched that.
I'll send it to you guys later.
Oh, dear. Sorry,
I'm gonna lean in and then just quickly ask the Franklin dude what the name of the man she's with is.
That's Clarence. They study together. They went on the trip.
Okay. Thank you very much. We needed to find him as well, so just making sure it was the two of them. Thank you very much, Franklin.
And he sort of says, he sort of goes to you, even though he's clearly a man of adult age, he's like, "Bye," and his voice cracks in the middle of it.
I give him a slap on the back. That's a fine try, Franklin. I'll see you in class next week.
But bye, Mr. Goad.
Yeah.
Cool.
Kind of a nod of an acknowledgement and walk on because I don't know him from Adam, but yeah.
Yeah.
How close to the bar are we getting whilst we're walking past?
Not particularly. Well, it depends what route you take. I suppose you've got kind of the pool tables predominantly in the middle with a long hanging light. It's reasonably dim in here, but the swirls of smoke from the lights goes around. The bar, whilst busy, is probably only one deep, but all the way along.
Okay. No, that's fine. Just head straight to them.
Yeah, I mean, I've got no reason to go anywhere else.
How about that, Charles?
Yeah. I mean, this is my first time in an American bar, even if it is a dry one. So I'm kind of just taking it in and observing people as we're going.
Cool. Just head over to them, and we'll let maybe Obadiah introduce himself and the rest of us.
Sure. I walk straight up to them. I literally stand there, kind of watching them take a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever's taking a shot, and I like, do they do well? Is it a good shot? Is it a bad shot? Is it?
Yeah. So it would appear that Agnes is winning.
Okay.
She's only got 2 left to pot, and Clarence clearly has maybe 4 or 5. And as she hits, there's a perfect shot where one goes into the corner pocket, and the white ball stops exactly on the edge where she needed it to set her up for the next one.
I'm like, a fine understanding of geometry there. You ever thought about taking up any kind of engineering?
And she turns around, quite surprised at you. And she's very, very, very intense. I've nearly passed my course. Why would I ever want to start again? It's madness.
I mean, I hear that you've just come back, and we may be missing your tutor anyway, so you might need to start again.
And she looks at you, and her jaw is clenched, and she kind of goes almost, not through gritted teeth, but almost. And she's like, "It wasn't our choice. We wanted to stay."
Now, see, please accept my apologies. I did not mean to overstep my mark. I was merely trying to introduce myself, Professor Gold. If you have heard of me in the circles that you frequent.
No, I suppose it's probably a different school, isn't it?
Of course, sir. Of course. Well, we have been tasked by Professor Mctavish to
And her eyes light up at Professor Mctavish. This is someone she respects.
Cool. To have a quick look into everything that's been happening to Henry and his dear Abigail, and of course, by proxy, you both too.
And for a moment, there's a real mix of emotions, and it could go one way or the other. And she tells you, they sent us back. I don't know whether he wanted the paper for himself, but he's still not come back. I don't know what's happened to him and Abigail, and she was so lovely.
I mean, did he send you back at the same time he sent Paul Walter back?
We all came back together.
Of course, and my associates here, may I introduce to you both Charles Allen from the fair lands of Yorkshire, and Evelyn, who you may know from the library.
And she nods to you both. Afternoon.
Afternoon.
My associates here met Walter, and they have some rather disturbing facts that they could share with you.
Yeah, he seems to be caring for his mother. Do you know anything about his mother?
I know he left the university to care for her.
But you've never met the mother at all? Never heard? Have you heard of her before? Did he mention her?
We weren't
Where else
particularly
you were?
close. He never mentioned her.
Even while you were all away on your visit.
Even whilst we were all away, Professor
I
Goad.
see.
Never once mentioned his own mother.
No.
This is the strange thing is we went along to see Walt, and then we were quite concerned for his mother, maybe some disease that maybe Walt brought back, but turns out that the mother just isn't there, and he's quite convinced that she is. Did he show any signs of mental illness, maybe, or?
Not
mental stability sort of breaking whilst we were away, or?
Not whilst we spent time together. He was very healthy.
Faculties all intact.
Whilst fit, healthy as well?
Yes, he was in good shape, and I've never read. It makes me jealous how well his reports were put together.
It's not the case anymore. No. He's quite unwell, and if you're still friends with him, I suggest maybe going along and talking to him.
She kind of her look at you borders on a glare, and she, more the way you're talking about him than anything, she's like, "I will."
Okay, Madam, you seem an intelligent woman. Tell us what happened. Tell us your story for what happened on this trip, because we're struggling to find out the facts.
So she goes on to recount how, and every time she kind of stops talking, her jaw kind of clenches. She's quite serious still. She goes on to tell you about how they had a few run-ins with the local farmers, young angry men. There were times when they were considerably scared because they would pull out firearms, believing that they were poking around on their property. And she talks about how they've had how not everyone in Blackwater is necessarily bad, because they had fantastic times staying with the Jarvies, eating to sort of wait out a storm, and that was kind of probably one of her highlights of doing so. But to be quite honest, that kind of is everything.
What were you looking for, and what did you find?
Well, we were looking to see if we could see such a thing as Cade's Rest. We wanted to see about a settlement of the Sicario, and see maybe where they set up, exactly what it is. You see, we're studying things of old and things that are no longer here. So we wanted to see where the borders were. We wanted to see what was there before the creek was.
These things interest me very much. Have you anything that you've brought back with you that I could maybe see? This would absolutely help with the investigation that we're doing at the moment.
Unfortunately not. Henry asked for all of our notes to remain with him.
That doesn't sound like Henry. What happened with Henry over this trip? It seems like he changed.
And at that point, the male who is eagerly awaiting to take his shot and sort of appearing, he sort of goes up and stands behind her. He's considerably taller than he is. He looks reasonably athletic, and he kind of butts into the conversation. And he talks about how things escalated, and he sort of says to you that times become quite desperate, and when we had to, and he trails off for a second, and he comes back and sort of says about how Dr. Rhodes was incredibly intent on getting dynamite and sealing something in the hills. He thought that blasting might reveal more of the historical accuracy of maybe perhaps where these settlements were laid. I can only assume that because of such dangerous work, he wouldn't want us handling the dynamite.
So he wanted to use dynamite to seal something.
To have a look at... he said that something was sealed.
Oh, and he's going to break the seal with the dynamite. Okay. Do you know what this is? Or what it was?
we weren't allowed to go near.
But do you know roughly what it was?
I suppose some rock formations is what we do.
And
Could you
didn't-
point out where it was on a map? Where this happened?
And he kind of thinks he's sort of like a bit dreamy, a bit daisy, and he's like, maybe.
I'm going to turn to the Agnes again. Be like, I presume you being quite intelligent have read about Cade's Rest and maybe the cave where they took, supposedly took Cade's son. Do you think this could be the same place? Because it was sealed with rocks after Cade dealt with it.
And she kind of laughs a little bit, kind of like, and it comes out as a bit of a snore, like, it's just a myth. Obviously, there's elements that are true, but come on. Cade's Rest is fiction that we tell to children.
No, of course it is. Of course it is. Why would we believe in any such nonsense like that? I mean, if you were gonna settle these locations, however, what exactly is it you were looking for settlement-wise? Is it like foundations of all the buildings, or just like ruins of other things?
She goes through a series of things what they were hoping to find, predominantly skeletons, burial graves, to look to see if there was any structures deep in, however they were likely to be made of wooden and tents, so it's quite unlikely that would have been there. Whether there would have been any artifacts such as kind of like tablets or things like that they were looking for, or even where water might have been so many years ago.
Of course, but you found none of this evidence that you were looking for before you were sent away. Is that what you're telling us?
Nothing of interest.
I see. That's unfortunate. I suppose if you have no more information for the actual environment for us, you could possibly assist us in telling us where dear Henry was most likely staying even after you left.
Well, like I said before, we stayed with the Jarvies for a considerable amount of time. They put us up. Blackwater Creek is nowhere that you'd go on a holiday, but they were kind enough to shelter us for a while, especially within the poor weather. And she begins to, she takes a pencil out of her hair, and on a napkin, she starts to create a rough sort of diagram of where things are in Blackwater Creek.
My many thanks to you. Ooh, look at that. That's a very fine diagram of where things are on a napkin. You are quite a talented artist. If you ever want to take back your previous statements and go into draftsmanship, I'm sure my engineers could very much use your talents.
I'm more interested in the old than creating the new, Professor
Nah,
Rhodes.
that's a shame. That's a very, very dire shame. I guess each to their own, though.
I'm gonna take the map and then maybe hand over to the guy whose name that I can totally remember.
Clarence.
Clarence,
yeah,
my friend.
that dude, and be like, so roughly where do you think the sealed rock formation would be on this map?
So he talks about how they spent a considerable amount of time at the dig site, how they've explored various parts of here, but it was more north that they sort of went to explore.
Okay, so maybe that cave there.
Maybe that cave there that she been drawing so neatly at the top of that napkin. Mm-hmm.
Hi.
I see the Jarvie farm has a boundary fence with the Carmody farm. Carmody?
Yeah.
Are they some of the folks that gave you some troubles?
That was the farm that, yeah, they did not like us being around, but they weren't the only ones.
I see. Is that the townsfolk too?
Along the road, it's an unwelcoming place.
That's a shame. Such terrible, terrible experience when folks don't get along.
That it is. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm about to win this game.
I can see that. I can see that. I look at Clarence and I'm like, and I just like shake my head in a kind of like, you're fucked, son, kind of way. Like,
and he's kind of like, he's looking past you and doesn't really acknowledge you. It doesn't really even see what you're doing, as his eyes are semi-glazed over. And as you look over your shoulder, there are a few women with skirts higher than the knee over behind you.
I mean, fine. Be like that, Clarence.
He's all about that poontang. I mean,
So not fancying pulling out the shotgun.
Oh, I
Get his attention.
don't carry the shotgun on university property. That would be incredibly misguided of me to, enter an education premises with a firearm.
so you just left it in the car.
Yeah, in the lockbox in the car.
Right. Honestly, I don't know what we're gonna do at this point. We should maybe.
I mean, I guess we wait out the night and then we go for a drive down to Blackwater Creek.
How long it's gonna take us to get there?
No. I wait for Agnes to make her next shot.
Okay.
And once she's made her next shot, I will ask her.
Okay, so almost you can see her kind of like lick her thumb and sort of say, there. And there's a very much precision, very sort of surgical move to it. And it goes straight in. But she's cool, she's calm, she's collected and starts walking over to the next shot. And in between, she says, well, from here, straight from here, probably about 5 hours or so. Depends on what kind of car you're sporting.
I'm sporting any kind of car, my dear. Okay. 5 hours. 5 hours is not too bad, but I wouldn't want to drive it overnight. Let's not lie. Night driving is real dangerous, no matter where you are.
Well, I think maybe we should go back to the professor, let him know what we've found out so far, see if we can get access to the files that the rather rude lady on reception wouldn't let us have. And yeah, then we can find out a little bit about Walter and his mum, and head off for the night and come back tomorrow to make the journey.
Yeah, maybe leave early if we can, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, dawn drive is one of the most beautiful things anyone can take in.
Then dawn
I'll
it
have
is.
to take your words.
I mean, you don't have to take my words. You can experience it tomorrow when we're all here at dawn in my car.
So,
Yay.
a couple of hours, or half an hour later or so, you go looking for Mctavish, and you bump into Camille, who you saw earlier, and she informs you that he's left for the day. He doesn't often stay past 3:30. He is a man who, in a position of power, certainly abuses it for the time at home.
Okay. Let's get his address. Can we get his address off of her?
She doesn't know.
Oh, for the love of Christ, what is this?
I mean, I wouldn't want to be bothered at home after I've left university for the day.
Yeah, but you might if your friend is missing.
Maybe, but I mean...
But, could we just ask Camille what time he'll be in tomorrow?
Can we ask her if she can give us access to those files we were looking for? Being his personal assistant, she might be able to do that.
Yeah.
So she indicates to you that he is. She generally doesn't know. For his cool hipness as a professor, he kind of comes and goes as he pleases.
Okay.
So, and
That's
about the
understandable.
files.
There's a call. She couldn't possibly break such a rule.
All right, I say we write a letter for the professor and make sure that he can. I mean, I presume there's some way to send letters to maybe something like the Jarvie farm or something like that. So if we write a letter detailing what we've seen and how we're worried for.
It'd be like a telegram or something like that, wouldn't there?
Yeah.
Or maybe not, because it's in 6.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But I mean, he's been sending letters from there, so I presume there's a way of receiving them as well.
Some kind of postal service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just need to make sure not to piss off the locals so much, because I presume they're the ones that do distribution and things like that. So.
Yeah. Fine. We can ask Camille if the Jarvis were receiving payment or anything from the university for them staying there, because then if we've got the letter of introduction, it's kind of we're linked to it.
Yeah.
Not that I know of. We don't know who the Jarvis are. It appears as someone they may have met when they were out there on the expedition itself.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we'll just have to say that we're worried about Walt. We don't know about anything about his mum, but he seems to think that he's looking after her, even though she's not there.
What we could do is leave a note. Yeah, leave a note about Walter saying that think somebody needs to pay a check to him to go and visit him and see what they think.
Sure. So she writes down a scribble, sort of saying about what you've experienced and that you have concerns for him, and almost requesting if him himself can go and have a word with him as the department head.
Okay.
Yeah.
To see on his well-being.
That's fine. And then maybe if there's anything that comes from that, can they please let us know whilst we're out at Blackwater Creek in the next couple of days.
So she notes it all down.
Cool. And then I guess we'll say thank you and leave it.
I'd leave off for the evening and prepare for our early morning start.
Okay. Anything in particular you want to do throughout the night?
Get a good night's rest.
Yeah.
I think so.
Make sure.
I'm going to do a little bit of reading again. I'm going to get the book of the one that explained Cade's Rest, and I'm going to go through it with that fine-tooth comb to find all the conspiracy theories that I'm looking for.
Okay. So as you kind of go through it, what necessarily you didn't pick up in the first read is that they were Quakers. It was also his own family that he led, and they came out of Boston to flee the persecution of the Puritans. But apart from that, that's all you can kind of glean.
Okay, well, guess I better sleep and prepare for the morning then.
Sure.
Just gonna write up my notes, make sure that I've got enough paper, ink, and stuff like that for the trip coming up, and then just generally prepare.
Sure.
Get ready for tomorrow.
Obadiah?
I'll sleep.
Okay.
I get a good, solid night's rest.
Fantastic.
I'll make sure in the morning I wake up way before dawn. I'll pack my car. It's a fine car, because we will be going all the way in a Packard Twin Six Touring automobile.
Okay.
This car is the car I turn up in today.
Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Beautiful. That is a very lovely car.
Cool.
So it's reasonably early in the morning, probably about 8:30. Town is steadily, everyone's going to work, and there's a bit of rush hour as you try to get back to the university. But as you arrive there, Evelyn and Charles is waiting outside. Charles, luckily, the university put you up in a spare campus room. Considering that you're from overseas, they were quite happy to put you up once you show them the letter from Tavish, introducing who you are and why you are here. Yeah.
Cool. I'm gonna say to Obadiah, are you sure that's the right type of car for Blackwater Creek?
I'm most assuredly sure that it is the right car to drive for 5 hours in luxury and comfort.
Okay, as long as you're happy about its safety whilst we're there.
I mean, if anybody touches Julieta, I will be having their balls on a platter. I must assure you that that would not be a wise thing for them to do.
Oh, okay. I'll just put myself in the back then.
I mean, you can sit up front with me if you wish, or you can sit in the back. I don't mind.
Really, really would rather not. Thank you very much.
By all means.
Fair enough. I'm putting my meager belongings in wherever you would put them in there. One of the little
I suggest
boxes.
one of the trunks. One of the trunks on the side. They will be perfectly safe in there. Does everybody have everything they need?
Yeah, I think so.
We've got one stop to make before we leave town, and then we, I guess we're en route.
Where's that stop?
Mackie breakfast.
No, it most assuredly is not a breakfast. We shall get breakfast later on down the road. We're just gonna pick up some a little bit of explosive material from a friend, just in case we need it while we're there. It seems like the done thing, apparently, down in Blackwater Creek. Go down, blow something up.
So, but how do you know someone that would have the kind of materials that would create this?
I'm not sure that I do, but I'm gonna stop somewhere and ask somebody.
Okay.
Surely they'd have some at the university, or at least
I'm sure.
Physically make that, yeah.
Right, exactly. No, I'm sure, that I know somebody within, some kind of engineering that would know how or know where to get some dynamite from or something.
Okay.
They'd have it for construction, wouldn't they? So
they would.
Yeah, exactly.
They would. But to try and contact them, I'd still probably like a luck roll.
By all means, a 4 a.m. dynamite call. I fail.
Okay. So
I don't know.
It would seem kind of at this hour it would be particularly difficult to get hold of. You are a suave talker, but you're also not entirely sure that other departments would give you such things.
Sure. I guess I'd probably waste an hour trying to find some, and then just after an hour of just keeping you guys waiting, I'm just well, I guess we ain't gonna blow up no part of Blackwater Creek.
Oh, well, at least that's a bit safer.
I mean, that's a very good point. Maybe we should just get some while we're there. Then I don't have to put it in the car and possibly blow us all to Kingdom Come.
Yeah, that was what I was worried about.
By all means. I mean, Charles, put your stuff in that box. Don't mind the shotgun and the few shells that are in there.
Yeah. Into the boxes. I'm in the car in an appropriate place for me to sit, and yeah.
I mean, are you sure neither of you would want to sit up here up front with me?
Definitely not. Thank you very much.
I mean, suit yourselves. And I start driving.
Okay.
Let's just get to Blackwater Creek, please. Okay.
So the town of Blackwater Creek lies on a rural road little to the east of Dunwich. The least inhospitable route from Aachen to Boston involves huge amounts of travel on the back roads and the dirt tracks of the Miskatonic Valley. And the closer you get, the quality of the roads makes difficult driving more and more likely, slowing down the journey significantly. A hopeful 5 hours stretches longer and longer and longer, and in the back of the car you can feel yourselves getting more and more fed up. The further into the valley that you get, the more rustic and unwelcoming the settlements become. But I suppose as you finally start to come down a road through Dunwich Pass from the hills, still within sight of the Miskatonic River, I would like you all to make a raw power roll.
Feel my raw power. Ah, wow. Oh.
Oh, look at that. I am Mr. Power.
Okay. Joe, I'm going to mute you for a second whilst I talk to the others,
Sure.
if I can do such a thing.
I can just meet you. Done.
Okay. As you start to enter the
I'm going to
land,
meet the other two.
Obadiah seems pretty, not convinced, but necessarily concentrating upon the road and very trying to navigate the difficulty of these crap backtrack roads. And as you go, you can hear a slow, regular beat going through the land. It's slow and deep, but just on the very edge of your perception. As you kind of go through it, you kind of rationalize it, thinking that it's part of the car, part of part of the journey itself, but there's definitely something there. Okay, see if I can get Joe's attention. He's not looking. Okay.
You back, Joe?
Not quite.
Or we could just chat like, hey Joe, do you want to come back? Because I doubt he's muted everyone.
Hello. Yeah, of course, because I figured you guys were going to talk back.
Okay.
Fair enough.
So despite the hopeful 5 hours that it was told that it would take to get to Blackwater, this car most certainly wasn't made out for this kind of journey, and it takes you to the point where you're actually approaching dusk getting there. You have had to stop off and fill with some of the tankards of gas you have in the back, and as you sort of come in, it gets darker and darker.
Cool. Which side are we coming in from? The Dunwich side or the...
Yes, you're coming from Hook Road to Dunwich, 6 miles.
Okay. Maybe bring up the subject of where we want to stay for the night. Do we want to try and stay, like, just visit the campsite and just stay there? I presume we didn't bring tents or anything, so if they don't have a tent for us, then we might have to...
I mean, frankly, I am exhausted. I could sleep in anything.
By you, Charles?
I think that the Jarvie Farm might be the most hospitable place for us, having spoken to all three of the students. Apparently it was the only place they had a warm welcome. So, warm welcome, nice place to sleep, best apple pie you've ever eaten. Why not?
I'm interested in the apple pie.
I mean, okay, I'll drive that way.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Are these dotted white lines footpaths, or are they roads?
You mean here?
No.
Here.
How do I... Yeah. How do I do that? Is it control?
Just hold. Just hold the click. They are kind of off roads, if that makes sense. I mean, I know it's all off road.
They're like tracks.
But they are,
Like,
they are kind of
track.
like dirt tracks. So they're harder and harder to
I'll
get through.
just maybe leave it for Obadiah to figure out if he wants to drive up there or not.
Sure.
I'm not going to drive Giulietta up there. She's too fine a car. If I draw on the map, obviously it's not probably going to be in the same place as everybody else. I don't know how that works. So if I do... 1 second. This... That's great. That's not going to help. It's a great map, Joe. Like this. Is that on the
Everyone,
Yeah, that's
everyone
showing
should
on
see
mine.
that.
whereabouts is that, for you guys?
It's just on the outskirts of town.
Okay, perfect. Just off the track. Okay, that's fantastic.
So as you go through town,
Mm-hmm.
you notice that there are a few buildings. They are wooden. They are quite shack, and they've kind of got like those tin corrugated roofs. Apart from the church, there is looks like there to be a poor convenience store, a basic school, a church, and then a few other houses. There doesn't appear to be anyone really around at this time in the evening.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, that's good because we don't really want to get noticed if they're all a bunch of asses.
Okay. Yeah, I parked the car where I put the thing, and then I detach all of the cases from the sides, and I look at the two of you, and I'm just like, I can't carry all 4 of these by myself. I'll carry 2 by all means.
I'd obviously come and offer to help carry things.
My thanks.
Do it poorly since I'm a slender, weak man.
I mean, I don't think any of us are particularly built for brawn here.
I think at the time I would just assume that you were going to take mine.
Yeah, that's okay.
Or
I hand you 2, Charles, and I keep 2 for myself.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Um,
And then we make our way up the path towards the Jarvie farm.
Okay.
Yeah. I
So-
lock up my car, obviously.
You what? Sorry, lock up.
I lock up my car. Yeah, totally.
Okay. So there's a pang of kind of attachment as you leave the car. It's in a strange place, and you love that thing as much as you love all your babies. But needs is must, and you wouldn't want her to go up the dirt road you start to trek.
Oh God, no.
So as you go up, it is quite literally a dirt road, and as you sort of approach, you can see that there's a modest wheat field that borders onto another farm. There's also a pasture, and you can hear the dull noises of livestock in the distance.
all right.
Did any of you catch what it is that the Jarvie family farm?
Not at all.
I see.
I'm just hoping they don't kick us out when we get there.
I see.
I mean, it sounds like they won't, but
I would assume from looking around it will be wheat.
But I suppose so. I appear to have accidentally made a rectangle up to the right of everything, and I did not mean to do that.
Oh, we seem to all be moving as well. I presume that's you doing that, Greg.
Yeah, there's a good reason.
Okay.
So is there anything that you do up on the way up there?
I glance back at my car repeatedly.
Okay.
I might take a look at the woods because it looks kind of creepy on the
And
on
that
the map.
and that it does. It looks incredibly creepy. You can hear the wind rustling through the trees. You can hear the distant sounds of something in the woods. It gives you kind of like a shivers down your spine. Not for any other reason, just that it is dark and that it is creepy. There's definitely the sound of a trickle of water through it. But yeah.
How big does it look? Like,
Massive.
how long would it take you to walk through it?
Through or across?
Across from like where we are to maybe the campsite type stuff.
Actually walk it, you're looking sort of hours, I imagine.
All right.
How does it look quite overgrown or quite well kept or?
Overgrown. It's a very natural wood, but it's very dense.
Okay. Really dark in there, I imagine. Really foreboding.
Yeah, light doesn't kind of come through it.
Okay.
All right. Just basically keeping our eyes out, make sure we're not gonna get any strangers getting angry at us. Just wanna. I mean, I presume we're all really tired, so we just want to get to the farm
Sure.
and have some good apple pie.
Sure.
I sure do like me some apple pie.
So,
Oh, hell.
as you make your way up, you start to come up on a farmyard. You can see that the wheat is definitely ready for harvest, and it's almost as tall as you guys. And in the night, it makes an eerie kind of shh as the wind goes through it and it swishes back and forth, back and forth. The more you make your way up, there seems like there's quite a few buildings. It's a reasonably successful farm, as a farm can be, with a large silo, and the smell of, I suppose, shit and rotting fruit kind of goes through the air a little bit.
Lovely.
No, I mean, this isn't really my kind of place. I do prefer the city.
Yeah, agree with you there, Obadiah.
What do you mean? Can't you smell that fresh country air?
Is this what it's like back for you in Yorkshire?
Yes, it smells of shit there too.
I mean, I pity you. I pity them all over there in England.
Well, the cradle of culture.
Can we see anyone around? Is there any obvious signs of people?
So at kind of dusk time, you can see that there are, candle lights within the farmhouse. There's definitely someone here. It's an active farm, and you can hear livestock around. The snorts of pigs, the sort of sounds that chickens make as they sort of get round to roosting. It's quite busy. It's kind of as you come into the farmyard, I suppose you notice that the farmhouse itself is quite modest and old, but very well maintained. They clearly value their property, and it's painted white recently. It looks very clean, and this is vastly different to what you saw in town.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks well.
Just go up to the farmhouse and knock on the door.
Yeah.
After you.
I mean, can we have like a cursory glance around us to see if we can see any people? I mean, you didn't like we've got this foreboding, everything's terrible feeling. It's just, it's a new place, so you kind of look around, don't you?
Sure. And I suppose for all purposes, your stomachs are definitely a bit tight and anxious because you're trespassing. You're on someone else's property. So there doesn't appear to be anything. You can't hear anything. You can't see anything. Actually, leader of the group, make a spot hidden check. Whoever has the highest spot hidden.
I think I do.
25.
75 or something.
If yours is 75, it's higher than mine. I think mine's 56.
There you go.
Okay. So there's certainly movement in the farmhouse, the main building.
Okay.
And we've got no reason not to go there, so...
Yeah, just... I guess, how do you want to appear when we ask? Do you want to appear, like, more formal? Like, should I be the one knocking on for formality? Or do we want to maybe... I guess we should probably do that, because we're not really worried that these people are going to attack us in any way, so we shouldn't really have, like... I was going to say, if we're worried about it, we could have, like, Obadiah or... Well, probably Obadiah, because it's probably the biggest out of all of them.
You would seem more friendly than either myself, who's got quite a gaunt, foreign look.
Yeah.
And Obadiah, who is clearly hiding several guns on his person.
I suppose that one thing I suppose you also notice is that the bonfire is definitely sort of smouldering,
Okay.
and there's quite a burnt smell of flesh in there.
Alright, okay.
Can we have a look at the bonfire then? If we notice there's a smell of barbecue type of a thing,
You want you to go eat it?
No, but you know what I mean. You get that smell of burnt meat, don't you? Which is that
real thick.
and it'd draw your attention, not because I'm hungry, but just that.
Yeah.
Oh right, that's a bit odd.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think part of me would not want to intrude. I haven't got any reason to doubt these people or anything like that. So I don't really want to be caught snooping around their barbecue or whatever instead of just talking to them and then maybe asking them what they cooked?
I'm quite happy to talk to them if you want to do that first. That's
We just assume that they're normal people, and then we'll go down because everyone else is a dick apparently. So let's start high here, and then I mean you can obviously go have a look if you want, but I think I'm just gonna go knock on the door.
no, I'm quite happy to wait. Quite happy to wait.
Cool. Yeah, I'll go knock on the door.
Okay.
Just lightly tap on it.
Okay. So a few moments pass, and you hear a shuffling towards, and behind the door as it opens, there is a tough, wiry-looking man, kind of in his early 60s, and he's mostly bald. He's got a small fringe of white hair, and it kind of moves in the midnight, sort of the late night breeze. He's wearing, typical kind of flannel shirt, overalls, and work boots, and he kind of squints at you, sort of in the darkness. He's like, "Yes."
We're going to hello, sorry to intrude. We're from the same university as I believe Henry Rhodes, which you may have met. We're just friends and colleagues of his, and we're really worried because we haven't heard from him, and we know that he stayed with the Harvey family, so we're hoping to come here and see him, really, I guess, if he's still here.
Yes, Jarby family though, girl. Just come in. And he kind of ushers you all in, and as you kind of get in, it is a very typical kind of farmhousey look. It's there are a few ornaments around. The furniture looks like maybe at some point he's made this himself. There's no television in the corner, but there's certainly a wireless, and all of the light is provided by oil lanterns and candles. And he kind of calls out, Edith, we've got some guests. And a ruddy, plump lady sort of comes through. She looks like everyone's kind of nana. She's a proper nice sort of lady with a sort of a big white hair in a bun, with an apron around her waist. And she kind of coos as you come in, and they kind of usher you down.
I'll introduce everyone. It's like, this is Obadiah. He's an engineer. This is Charles. He's a friend of Henry Rhodes, and I'm Evelyn, the university librarian.
Okay. And she kind of, or he kind of, moreover, sort of talks to you and sort of goes, so how's Henry doing?
What do you mean, how's Henry doing? We came here to look for him. We haven't heard from him. Why did he leave, or?
And he sort of goes on to explain how he hasn't seen him in a couple of weeks, and sort of they haven't seen him in a while. Neither nor have they seen the students.
What's the current date?
So we are currently. Let me just get the timeline up so I don't balls this up. So you've met in September, so it should be the last week of September. And he goes on to explain to you about how they haven't seen them since sort of the second week of June.
Oh, right, so just before he sent the last letter home. Because the last letter home was the 22nd of June.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay. Well, that's not really for any.
I wonder if I could pick your brains a little bit, Mr. Jarvie.
He nods.
Is it roughly the same day the last time you saw the students and the last time you saw Henry?
Well, they went out to look some kind of dig site, and they kind of found what they were looking for. I suppose I thought they might come back to you.
I see. I'm not quite sure where else they could have gone. Is there anywhere else you could imagine them staying in town?
Suppose Blackwater's not really that kind of holiday place. Yes, we're sort of the only people that puts people up.
I see. Speaking of, is there any chance that we could take advantage of your hospitality for a night or two?
Suppose there's a few farmhands staying on the place, but I suppose there's if you don't mind sharing a room with each other.
I mean, I'm sure that will be fine.
He kind of indicates and looks at Evelyn to check that this would be okay.
Maybe. You don't happen to have a settee or something that I can take, or?
And he kind of you can see he's kind of sort of reassured by the idea that such a young woman would prefer to sleep in a separate room. And he sort of agrees that would be probably more appropriate under his roof.
I would like that. Thank you very much.
So, we noticed a barbecue on a bonfire on the way in, and what's been going on? What's been burning?
He kind of looks.
I say that in a very friendly way, by the way.
Rather than, what the fuck have you been
What have you been burning? Why is that flesh? No, it's just an offhanded remark rather than accusation.
He kind of looks at you, and there's a little bit of a sorrow in his eye, and he sort of explains to you, well, some of my souls, they've been developing some pustules, you see, and so I had to stop them before the infection carried on.
That sounds really unusual. Is it something that happens a lot, or is it just something that's happened recently?
I've never seen nothing like it.
Is there anything else weird going on in town? Like, has anyone else noticed?
And kind of his wife kind of jokes a little bit, sort of talking about how how kind of his eyesight has been getting better, or how her eyesight has been getting better recently.
Interesting. I mean, that's fantastic for you, Mrs. Jarvie.
Could
Mrs. Evelyn.
Could someone make a spot hidden roll, please?
Do you want me to do it, guys?
I mean, I'm not really good at looking for nothing.
I've got a 56. If you can beat a 56, go for it.
Alright.
Fantastic. I just want to double check. You guys have been ticking this stuff that you've used today, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Every now and again, Evelyn, you can see that Mrs. Jarvie is kind of wincing a little bit and sort of rubbing her gums. She looks like she's in a bit of a pain, maybe with a bit of a toothache.
Alright. I won't mention it just now, but I'll make sure when we're in a sort of more private setting, I'll mention to Obadiah and Charles, mainly because the first thing that comes to my mind is water and how it may not be the best around here. Because if there's, we already know that there's going to be some sort of disease. Well, at least I'm thinking that multiple people have contracted diseases here. So, and then we come here and there's what do you call it? Bad pigs, and she's got a bad toothache. I'm thinking water is probably not the best thing to be drinking around here. But yeah, I'm not going to say that in front of them, so I'll wait until later on and then I'll message them. What do you call? Talk to them. Jesus.
Yeah. I just make some small talk with Mr. Jarvie.
Okay.
I'm just asking about when he's due to harvest the wheat.
Well, you wouldn't believe it, but I suppose it's growing faster than ever. Suppose maybe in a week or so.
I'll see you. Faster than ever, you say.
Good harvest.
That's fantastic news.
I'm kind of looking around the room, just like you do when you visit someone's house and you kind of just having a look around.
Sure.
But in reality, I am scrutinizing everything that I see in the best way I can.
Okay.
Just because I'm paranoid and things dying and everything else seems like cursed territory, so I'm expecting them all to be witches.
Okay. Is there anything you're looking for in particular?
Again, my thing is symbols and signs of occult activity. That's the thing that I've been obsessing over.
Sure.
So again, I'm going to try. Is it going to be a hidden
Spot hidden,
search or spot hidden or occult? Which would you rather? They're both about the same, to be honest. So it makes no difference.
Spot hidden usually for this.
Okay, no worries. Nah.
So what you can see is there is a lovely picture, like a flashbulb sort of sepia tone picture of the two of them and a younger person in between them, and they've both got their arms around them. Mr. Jarvie has a pitchfork in his hand, and they look relatively happy outside of their barn.
Okay.
But to be honest, nothing seems out of place. It's a very nice, homely place.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think my car will be fine down if I left it at the end of the track? No one surely in town will do anything to such a fine automobile.
He kind of looks at you with a little bit of a wince. Well, these folks say they don't go much, so you can bring it up here if you like.
I mean, if you think it's best, I surely will.
He kind of hints that it's probably safer up here than it is down there.
Sure. I decide to immediately set out to go and get my car.
Okay.
I would most likely offer my assistance to get it because he's going out on his own. He doesn't know what's going on.
Okay.
I mean, you can come with me if you like, or you can make yourself at home here. I hear that your fine wife's apple pie is something to certainly write home about, and we've been hearing about it for a long time.
And she kind of blushes like, oh dear. When you return, we'll have some more. And she starts to shuffle off to the kitchen to go get some.
Cool.
By all means, Charles, come with if you wish, but I'm just gonna collect my car and get it up here. Don't worry about me.
If you're sure, I'll stay here then.
I mean, no sense in us both walking back down there.
Apart from safety, you know.
I mean, do you think it's really that unsafe for me out here?
I mean, if it's unsafe for your car, and
I mean, we only left it about 10 minutes ago, surely.
Shall all three of us go? Tonight, nice evening. It's not raining.
I mean, I'm not gonna say no, so
I'm gonna stay here. But I'll see you out the door, and then if we do go outside the door, I'll quickly tell you my theory on the water not being so good. And if I drink water, I think I'm only gonna accept tea or coffee, like boiled water. I'm not gonna have actual water, like all the stuff about the wheat as well growing.
Yeah.
That's all gonna be water based. So
sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it is starting to get quite dark. You can hear some noises from the other buildings upon this farmhouse. Not the farmhouse, but the farmyards and the different buildings around here. Particularly a shack behind, also to the left of the farmhouse. So could Obadiah, considering that you're essentially leading this to your car, could you roll a luck?
Luck check. I mean, that's all I've rolled tonight, and I guess I can either do so or fail so like that.
Okay.
Kind
So Would you like to push the roll? If so, you need to explain how.
I mean, I don't know how I'll push a luck roll. I guess I just
Feel lucky?
Is there anything to indicate why I would be like resting on my luck here? Just trying to get, just being lucky or not. Yeah, there's no reason why I'd push that roll, or no explanation
Sure.
as to why or how I would do it.
Sure. Okay. So upon returning to the car, you can see that a couple, the two back tires have indeed been punctured.
Oh, God, fucking damn it. I apologize for my language.
You go right ahead. I think back home they'd be swearing a lot more than that, mate. Don't worry.
What? God in heaven. Why would I? Who would do this? What kind of monster would do such a thing to such a fine automobile? It's not even like I got two spares. I got one spare. This is no use to me. Do I think in its current condition I could even really gingerly drive it up to the farmhouse?
You could, but you would know from your engineering that if you hit anything solid, you might dent the rim. You know that you might dent the rims, but it will still drive forward. It will just take time.
Well, as judging by the uncouth heathens that are apparently in this town waiting to sledge up anything they see fit, I am gonna move my car up there.
Okay. Please, can you make a drive auto roll?
I can, like this.
Okay.
Hey,
So, despite it being a particularly bumpy ride and the sound of your poor car going up this road, you do in fact make it up to the farmyard without any particular trouble.
All the way up.
Yeah.
All the way up, I'm like, don't worry, Julietta, I'll fix this. And I'll see to those who did it to you, too. They're gonna get what's coming to them.
Okay.
Don't you mind.
And almost as you kind of like go past the chicken coop, you almost rev the engine as its own little response to you. That kind of brrrr.
That's right, Julietta. You get a nice sleep tonight.
God help us. Got a man who talks to his car. I mean, I don't know that, but
Can I just check? Did all three of you go?
no, I didn't go.
You didn't
It
go.
was just two of us.
Okay. So, Obadiah and Charles, as you re-enter the property, you know, the door was left on the latch as you go back in. You notice that Evelyn is sat down, eagerly awaiting pie in front of her at the table, as all the places are set for what looks like, and you can smell it. I don't know how she's heated it up, but good lord, does this smell juicy, and you immediately both of your mouths salivate, and it is a fantastic, fantastic smell. And as you're about to set down for dinner, or supper as it were, this is where we'll end it for tonight.
Cool.